Okay, we are learning a well-known Sicha, the Farbrengen, the Rebbe had on the Shabbat of Parshas Vaerah of the year Tafshin Yud Beis. By then it was already probably 1952. So this is almost completing the first year of when the Rebbe officially accepted his leadership. And this is the Shabbos of that year, was blessing the month of Shvat, the Lord of Shimon, which is starting. So we're learning the Sicha of Vaerah. It was the 28th of Tevet, the Mevarchim, the month of Shvat of that year, Tafshin Yud Beis 1952. It could be we learned the Sicha before, but this Farbrengen before, but it's a powerful Farbrengen and always good to Chazan. And please, if I yesterday's classes were very choppy, so if the sound doesn't come over well, please let me know, and I'll switch machines. Okay. In the writings of my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, Misupar, it's told a story. What he heard from his father, meaning what he heard, hey, John, we're just starting. So the Sicha, the Rebbe starts talking about from the notes of his father-in-law, meaning the previous Rebbe, what's written there, what's told over from his father, the fifth Rebbe Chabad, the Rebbe Rashab, that he said like this. Again, it could be we learned this Farbrengen once before. I don't see it online that we did, but if we did, we'll be chazering it. Sipur, the Rebbe Rashab tells a story, and this is also today's Hayom Yom, meaning Friday's Hayom Yom. Sipur kishama mi'arav v'chasid Moshe Levi Barditchev, that the Rebbe Rashab heard from the Chassid, known as his name was Moshe Levi Barditchev. Sorry. Okay. Who is this Moshe Leib Barditchev? He was a neched, a grandson of Rebbe Levi Yitzchak, meaning the grandson of Rebbe Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev, which was a close friend to the Alter Rebbe and also family through marriage. Told the Rebbe Rashab. I'm not sure if he himself became a chassid or what. Asher Kvoy Kedusha Rabbeinu HaGadol, about the Alter Rebbe. So he calls the Alter Rebbe Rabbeinu HaGadol, the great Rebbe. A Sefer HaKadosh HaTanya. When the Alter Rebbe was authoring the Tanya, meaning he took the Alter Rebbe a while to write the Tanya. So as he wrote the Tanya, it was known by Chasidim that he's asek, whatever the topic was the Alter Rebbe was writing at the time of the Tanya, Biksivasai in his writings, that was his mood. So if he was writing about happy things, he was happy. If he's writing about less happy things, he was less happy. The Alter Rebbe's mood was based on what he was writing. He was so connected to the Tanya and to authoring the Tanya that he actually lived it as he wrote it. If it was a time of kind of mellow and kind of negative, not negative, but more down, or a little dark, that was the mood, not just by the Alter Rebbe, but the Chassidim fed off that mood, and the mood was down by the Chassidim. And if the Alter Rebbe was in the middle of authoring or writing or putting together his thoughts for writing about something that was simcha, joy, happiness, then the simcha by the Chassidim, because that was also by the Alter Rebbe, was tremendous. He says, Ma'id Ma'id. Ad kan mashashama k'vay kedushas admonish mas'edim minechad harav hakodesh harab Levi Yitzchak Merdishev. This is all was told over to the Rebbe Rashab by the grandson of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev. His name was Rabbi Moshe Leib of Barditchev. V'hoisif k'vay kedushas adam nishmas eidin. And based on that idea, that the mood of the Chassidim and the mood of the Rebbe was based on the mood of the topics the Alter Rebbe was dealing with at the time of the writing of the Tanya. So the Rebbe Rashab adds, Heint, this is in Yiddish and I'll translate. Heint, was hat sich abgetan beis der Rebbe hat gesagt, der Drush ve'era. So if that's the case, what happened when the Rebbe, meaning the Alter Rebbe, said the Drush that is known as the Fruma ve'era, which the Rebbe said on that Shabbos of Tafshin Yud Beis, the Rebbe said it over with his own method, but the Alter Rebbe said this Maimer many times. And when the Rebbe Shab is saying, so when the Alter Rebbe said the Maimer of Vaerah, V'shmi Havaya, my name Havaya was not known to the Avos. Shekanalai, that this mimer acquired the name, their Fruma Vaerah. What's the Fruma Vaerah means? The Rebbe talks about the very deep over there about a person who's missing levushim. That if a person's missing garments, you have to have garments every day. You can't just walk, and every minute acquires its own garment to connect to Hashem. So what do you do if you don't have garments? So over there, the point of the mimer is the tshuva. But the Rebbe describes what it means they're missing garments. And the Rebbe goes into detail what could be reasons why a person would be missing garments. So therefore, this mimer is called the Frum of Vaerah. It's a frum, religious. I don't know if the translation of frum is religious. Frum means, Shimon maybe could give a better word for frum. I don't think it's religious. The point of the mimer is no one will be left behind. Everyone is going to do tshuva. So the Rebbe Shab is assuming if when the Rebbe said, if the Rebbe's mood was according to the Torah he was learning, so we have to assume that when he said the Frum of Vaerah, which was a powerful mimer, he says, I can't even imagine the Moira Gadol, the great fear that was felt by the Chassidim at that time. In Hayom Yom, it says that Alter Rebbe said the mimer many times. Hadrusha Zehu Ksav Yada Daidenu Maharil. The edited version, the version that we have written down, is from the Rebbe's. The Rashab says, from my uncle the Maharil, and he says in Yiddish, the Vetter Labeler, the uncle Labeler, and he says V'tikunim Shuras Achodes Ksav Yad Kachay Kvogdush Rabbeinu Gadol Ba'atzmai, and there's notes of the Alter Rebbe on it. And the Rebbe Rashab finishes off a Beize Chasidus, an angry Chasidus. Beize is angry. I don't know, angry Chasidus. I don't know what that means. A Beize Chasidus, an angry Chasidus. So the Rebbe is saying basically the Maimer Vaerah, the Frum of Vaerah, that talks about La Yidach Menu Nidach. There is no one who will be left behind. No Jew is going to be left behind when the Mashiach comes. Everyone's going to do tshuva, and through tshuva you could fix even if you're missing levushim, you're missing garments. And in order to take in the light, the ziv of Hashem in Gan Eden, and especially when Mashiach comes, we need garments. We know that the mitzvahs are garments that allow for us people to take in the great light. And through tshuva, we could rectify that. So now the Rebbe says, the Rebbe followed up on this, and he said, Ma'amer zeh b'ksav yad hamaril, be'ezes shuras ksav yad kodesh admer zokin. So this mimer that was written by the Maril, the Fetter label, with the notes of the Alter Rebbe, Nishmar ad hayom. We have, I guess, the original of that. Let me see the importance of the Rebbe's library. Av mikiman shemaimer eini benimtza, a mimer nitvas pam achas belemberg, avim harbetuyis. The Rebbe says because it's not found. I'm not sure what it means. It's not found. Maybe it's not printed properly. And he says it was printed once in Lemberg with many mistakes. Yom Shabbos Kadosh Zeh, and this Shabbos, which is Chav Ches Tevis, the 28th of Tevis, Kosher Adain is still connected to the Yom Hailula of Rabbeinu Zaken, the yard site, which was in Chav Daled Tevis. V'noisev Lachein has a Shabbos Parshas Vaerah. The Rebbe says it's Parshas Vaerah. The Rebbe's leading up to, they're not going to use from the word courage, but the setting of why the Rebbe is about to say over the Frum of Vaerah. Yom Ra'achshav Maimer Zeh, the Rebbe says I'm going to tell over this Maimer, because I guess the Rebbe had the original copy, and therefore it never went to print properly. So the Rebbe says he's going to say it over. I won't say it over exactly, word for word. He's going to include in it the Rebbe's grandfather, great-grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek's notes. Be myself and the Rebbe's own additions. And then the Rebbe said the Maimer, Vayidabra Likim Ve'era El Avram. Very, very powerful Maimer. Okay. The Rebbe continues the Fabrengen. Shabbos and Varchim Chodesh, Koil Koymer Chodesh Abba. We know when we bless the new moon, the new month, it includes all the days of the month. Sharei, V'yayim Shabbos Chodesh Zeh, Mamshich Mabrochas Akol Chodesh. We know that this Shabbos brings blessings for the whole. We bless the moon, we bless the month. So if we're blessing the month, we're blessing all the days of the month. Kol Pratei Brachas Nisparsha B'Nusach Debrachas Chodesh. And we say all the points affect all the days of the month. Misha Asanisim, Yichachei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, one who brought miracles should bring miracles again. And we say, etc., all the blessings that we say in the blessing of the moon, of the new month. And we know that one of the rules is that for a blessing to take hold, you have to have vessels. A blessing is like something you pour, a shefa. So you bless it if you're going to pour something. If someone has a nice wine, expensive wine, and just pours it on the floor, it's not going to help anyone. You need to have a keli, you have to have a vessel. We know the story that with Elisha and the woman who came to Elisha complaining that she was short of funds and she owed a lot of money. So he said to pour the oil. Oh, as long as there was vessels, there was oil. As soon as there was no more vessels to take the oil, the oil stopped. It means the blessing is dependent on if you have a keli. Moving, the Rebbe says, understood. So the Rebbe says, not just, it's an amazing idea. Not just when we bless a new time, whether it's a new month, a new year, when we're entering a new time, when we bless it, we make a bracha. And that bracha is supposed to give us its strength and supposed to give us blessing for the whole month. It's not enough that we bring them the blessing, because what do we do if we don't have no vessels? So the new month, that time also enables us and empowers us first to create the vessels, and then to bring down the blessing, the flow of the blessing to contain the vessels, the vessels to contain the blessings. The Rebbe says it's very important. We must make vessels. It means a person has to, not just to daven to Hashem, whether it is spiritual connections and all that. You have to be a keli. And it's important. It's not just that you have to make kelim. It's required that if you don't make the vessels, there's nowhere to put the blessing. The Rebbe is going to explain. Or pratis yaisa. Yedua, it's known. It's something we've learned many times. Why is the first of the month, which today is Rosh Chodesh, right? So why is the first of the month called Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month? It should be called the first of the month. The beginning or the beginning of the month. Just like the head, just like the head has within it all the vitality of the body goes through the head. So too, the first of the month has within it the power of all the month. It's not just that the head takes all the energy for the whole body, but it also distributes it. So too, the Rosh Chodesh doesn't just take the blessings; it's also the day that distributes the blessings. The Rebbe is getting at something. The Rebbe is one of the most important months to the Rebbe, of course, is Shvat, which is the yard site of his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe. And the same day he accepts leadership, Yud the 10th of Shvat. So the Rebbe is trying to connect the Rosh Chodesh, the day that we bless the Chodesh, already with the concept of Yud Shvat. So the point isn't just that the head should have all the energy. It's not also about that the head has all the energy of the body or the month. It's all about the actual effect that the head distributes the power. It's good. It's nice that you have potential. What's koch? Koch is potential. It's very nice to have potential. You have to bring it up bepoil, an actual. That's what he says bepoil. But how does it happen? It goes first. It's all inclusive in the head, and the head distributes it to the rest of the body, to the rest of the month. So to an example. How does the chayis go of the vitality go throughout the whole month? It's how does it get all inclusive in the day of Rosh Chodesh, and from there then it distributes to the rest of the month. But it's very important that on Rosh Chodesh it's done properly. And this is the Rebbe's point. You have to make kelim. You have to make vessels. If at the starting point there's a problem with the initial deposit, so to say, of the koiches, of the vitality, so how's the head going to distribute it throughout the month? It's all very important how we behave in Rosh Chodesh. That's why also Rosh Hashanah, the same idea, the new year. So from here we learn how important Rosh Chodesh is. Rosh Chodesh is not just another day that we say half Hallel and that's it. It's a day that's just like Rosh Hashanah is an important day for the year. Rosh Chodesh is an extremely important day for the rest of the month. And that all starts the Shabbos that we bless the Chodesh. We start getting ready for Rosh Chodesh. Aside for the fact that every day of the month you have to be focused on that day as it's important for its day of the month. And as you said before, the Rebbe says in the Maimer, every day has its avoda. Is be'inyan Baba Yamim, like it says that Avram Avinu Baba Yamim, his days were complete. Shetarchlias Yomim Shleiman, you have complete days. That it is a day that every day is complete. So then the month is complete. But aside for that, you also have Rosh Chodesh, which is the day that's important for the whole month. So here the Rebbe is going to go in now to what's this have to do? Why we're so focused on the idea of Rosh Chodesh when it comes to Shvat. When it comes to the month of Shvat, that we're blessing. There's a few things. The most important thing to us is the thing that's most closest to us. The most important to us is Yom HaYilula, is the Yortzeit, Shanasi Adar, of the Nasi of our generation, Kvod Kedushas Marichami Admer, my father-in-law, the previous Rabbi, that his Yortzeit is on Asir B'Chodesh, the 10th of the month of Chodesh. To explain that we're going next Shabbos, to this Shabbos, Parshas Vaerah, next Shabbos boy is going to be Yet Shvat. So by Chasidim, we know from Sar B'Tevis we start to get ready for Yet Shvat in three times. There's the first 30 days, second 30 days, and the last of the 10 of the 30 days is from Rosh Chodesh Shvat until Yud Shvat. So now we just started the last preparation. So the Rebbe is going to explain the importance of Yud Shvat. Why do we say Kaddish when someone passes away? So it says, this is an idea the Rebbe spoke about before that we learned. So in case the soul goes through hell, and in hell it's like the Ramban says, it's a lot worse than as bad as that they could get here in this world. Right? The Ramban says, as bad as the book of Job describes the difficulties of Job, doesn't come close to what hell is. So in order to lighten the judgment for the soul in hell, we say Kaddish. The difficulties of Egypt. Which is comparison to hell. Therefore, the custom we all know is that we do not say Kaddish after 11 months. So we shouldn't classify our parents as being Rashayim, evil. What do you mean? Because the max time you could be in hell is 12 months. So if a child should say Kaddish after his parents, that is a full 12 months, means you're saying my parents were Rishayim. So the custom is we say 11 months, because we say 11 months for sure. By then our parents have left hell. We don't assume that someone is a Rasha. Only a Rasha would have to stay so long in hell. Only a Rasha has 12 months. So then the Rebbe asked us, we've learned this question before. One has to wonder, and we have an explanation. Why do we then say Kaddish on the Yortzeit? If we have to say Kaddish only to lessen or to ease the experience the soul goes through in hell, and we're very careful not to go past 11 months, because God forbid our parents are not Rishayim, and therefore they've already fixed what has to be fixed, and their soul are all clean and ready to go to heaven. So why would we again start saying Kaddish when it comes to the day of a Yortzeit? Again, we're kind of like, it seems like we're again connecting our parents to a bad experience. So, if right away after the first year, a full year finished, and already 30 days passed after you finished saying Kaddish, why would you start saying Kaddish again on the Yortzeit? The soul already finished its time and its judgment in hell. And for that very reason, we didn't say in the 12th month, because the soul was finished. So here the Rebbe again asked the question, why did we say Kaddish on a Yortzeit? And so to every year. Why do we again say Kaddish when it comes to the time of the Yortzeit? And the answer to this is Shamir Kaddish b'yem Elul hiloy b'shvil lahakal mishpat beganim. The reason one says Kaddish on a Yortzeit is not the same reason we say Kaddish the first 11 months. The reason we say Kaddish on the Yortzeit is not. There's nothing to do with health. It's a Kaddish that helps the soul elevate on the day of his or her Yortzeit to a higher level. It means comes a Yortzeit of a neshama, unlike a birthday. A birthday also, we know from the Rebbe would celebrate birthdays even after someone passes away. But specifically on a Yortzeit, the neshama has a certain aliyah that in order to help that elevation, not out of hell, but elevation to a higher place within Gan Eden, we help our parents by saying Kaddish. So, that happens on the day of the Yortzeit. The first Yortzeit, after 12 months, the soul elevates to a higher level, and so to every year on that Yortzeit. Even though, like we know, that the soul is always elevating, even not on a Yortzeit, on a regular time. It's constant. As it's brought down. The Torah scholars don't have any rest. Not in this world because they're always toiling in Torah. Between balancing Torah and trying to make a living, which is, if you're trying to learn Torah, it's harder to make a living. They don't have any peace in the world to come. You think in the world to come, okay. So I'll have peace then. Shnemer, as it says, you constantly elevate. A little bit of a dark joke. A friend told me, he said, a guy once said, in Hebrew it goes better. He says, I have no luck. He says, the second I pass away, Mashiach is going to come and be Tchias HaMesim. Like, I'm not going to even be able to rest a little bit in the ground. As soon as I pass away, I'm going to have to wake up again. So, but the thing is that Talmud Chacham doesn't have any menucha. It's Yechel Mechayel Achoyel, constantly elevating. So what's special about the Yortzeit if you're always elevating? Nevertheless, those are small steps. But a major aliyah that happens on a Yortzeit, that is something unique that requires and is helped by the Kaddish. Because when they elevate throughout the year, that's within range, right? You just go a little higher. The Rebbe says that on a Yortzeit, it's not just a small continuing upward trend, but it's a total mahus, a total different experience from the year before that the soul has on its Yortzeit starting the new year. Aliyah Shalei Berach, something totally not within range. And in order to do that, the soul every year in its Yortzeit has to go and take a quick dip in the Nar Dinar, which evidently is like a fiery kind of mikvah. Not sure what kind of experience that is. You have to go up the pole, the beam, from one level within Gan Eden. The Rebbe always says, and it's brought down, the Alter Rebbe says many times, that even though in Scripture it mentions only the two levels of the Garden of Eden, the lower level and the higher level, but we know those are just general levels. But within between, there's thousands and thousands of levels, and therefore the soul is constantly elevating, and every year it elevates a huge elevation within those elevations through the Amud, through the beam of Garden of Eden, and it has to go through the Tefillah. It has to be immersed in the Nar Dinar. The idea of the Nar Dinar is, it's brought down in Chassidus, that just for those who are wondering, the Nar Dinar makes you forget your previous experience. It means that one of the ideas of proper elevation is to be separate from where you're coming from. If a person still has a connection to the previous level or a previous experience, right? So it holds you back to be totally new to new experience because you're still incorporating that or including that's inclusive with your past experience. So it's kind of an upgrade. But if you want to have a totally new experience, you have to totally forget your old experience, totally wipe it away. The Gemara brings a proof about that, about Reb Zera. The Reb Zera went from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. He forgot all his Torah learning. It wasn't like he went to Eretz Yisrael and he started to learn on a higher level, because had he kept his learning in Bavel, in Babylonia, he would have kind of just upgraded it, and he would have very kind of defined it by the knowledge he had. He totally wiped his memory. And when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he started new. and it was a whole nother level. So that's an example of nar dinar, that in order to go to the next level in the Garden of Eden, you have to totally delete, a total restart on everything before, so you come fresh. But the idea is like this. Even when it comes to a small elevation, there's always some dinu mishpat, some judgment. Okay, fine. So are you ready? When you go to a trainer, you go to a gym, right? So the workout, if you have a trainer, so the workout that you started with when the first day of working out is obviously you have to add to that workout, otherwise it's not working out, right? If you did 1 push-ups, you do 2 push-ups, you did so much weight, you do a little more weight, you do a little longer, all the different. But there's a dinamush, but the trainer has to see: are you able to take how much are you able to add in weight in the next training? So every elevation, so too in Garden of Eden, even not the ones on a yard site, has a dinamush, but an evaluation of where you're holding, if you could add. Kedisa Priyat Chaim, as it's brought down by the Rizal. Shadinu mishpatu b'chol eis shemayil and shamos nishmas ha'adam l'mayil mimadregase. Every time an neshama has any kind of elevation, there's an evaluation. Kvi erach aliyah is hamadregasahi, according to what you're trying to elevate to. Kishiratzu ata shiyasig aliyah yaser l'mayil mimashahaya. If you want to understand what's the elevations of the Garden of Eden, it's comprehension, understanding, and taking in godliness. So if you want to take in a higher level of godliness, you have to see, are you able? Like we learned in the Maimer, not the Maimer, that we didn't study the Maimer, but the Rebbs is in the Maimer, these are the levushim, these are the garments that the mitzvahs we do in this world are the garments we have in the world to come, in Garden of Eden. So so we evaluate the person, we judge the person, looking if the person did something wrong. It's an evaluation, like a trainer evaluates, are you ready to do more? And the more you go up, the more they're careful to see if you're able, if you're worthy. It says over there in the Eitz Chaim about a certain tzaddik, the Rebbe calls him a chacham gadol, a great scholar. That when they wanted to bring him up to a higher level. So here he's saying a little different than what I said before. He says, that basically everything you do in this world. So sorry, I have to correct myself. It's not an evaluation of how much you could handle. It's actually every elevation you have, they actually go back to your life in this world to be more scrutiny. It means your first judgment, you go to hell, fine, that cleans it up. But then if you have certain aliyot, they actually start to nitpick into every detail of what you did. So there was a certain tzaddik that they wanted to give him a certain aliyah, elevation in the world, within his elevations in the Garden of Eden. And they judged, what did they judge him for? What did he do? About his kavanah, what he was thinking about. He wasn't thinking about something wrong. He wasn't even thinking about something that wasn't connected to the prayer, but he wasn't properly thinking about the prayer when he said in the Uvalat Zion, that he didn't have the proper intentions, and that could have been holding him back from an elevation. Sorry, he was so concentrating on what he was saying in Uvalat Zion that for a second he lost his hesach das, he lost his awareness that he was wearing tefillin. And we know that a person, when they wear tefillin, always has to be conscious that they're wearing tefillin. That's why we don't wear tefillin today like we used to, where they wear tefillin the whole day, because it's almost impossible for us to be conscious today about the idea that we're wearing tefillin the whole day. It's not practical, so that we don't do it anymore. So here, this Chacham Gadol was so much engrossed in his tefillah, in his prayer of Leman Lainiga Larik, that he shouldn't pray, he shouldn't daven and learn in a way that's larik, it's wasteful, that he got so caught up in maybe being wasteful in his learning, and for a second he forgot about the tefillin, and therefore they judged him that he maybe possibly couldn't have an elevation. If that's the case in every elevation, even within range, so too more so. So even more so on a yard site. If it wants to be this huge elevation, there kind of is a reevaluation of your life. And therefore, again, we say Kaddish. So that's why it's very important to say Kaddish for your parents on the day, or your loved one on the day of a yahrzeit, because there's another judgment then, not a hell judgment, but a judgment for that soul's elevation, and you want to help that soul go through that elevation. Even though we're not talking about lightening the judgment of hell, but because there's going to be a great adjustment, a great elevation on the day of a yahrzeit, there's another judgment. Even the same things that weren't a distraction in previous elevations, means you ask yourself, it's already been 30 years since my parents passed away. They've elevated so much. They surely have cleansed everything out. Yes, they cleansed everything out last year, but there could be something even small this year that comes back, and therefore they need your help as a child to help them with that elevation by saying Kaddish. There's a new elevation. That's why we say Kaddish on the yahrzeit. In order to help with the elevation that the parents are going to have, or the loved ones going to have on the day of yahrzeit, which is a great elevation. So on a minor elevation throughout the year, the soul is good on its own, he or she. But when it comes to yahrzeit, the soul needs his children. It doesn't say what you do after the children pass away. I mean, we know that there's a custom to say grandchildren say Kaddish after the grandparents, but after a while, that people stop saying Kaddish. I mean, the last 2 generations, 3 generations. After a while, people stop saying Kaddish. When we start moving, so the Rebbe says the point is, that's what we understand now. So what's the Rebbe getting at? The Kaddish. The Rebbe's not talking about the Kaddish. The Rebbe wants to show us that the fact that we need a Kaddish on yahrzeit means that a yahrzeit is a big day. The Rebbe is getting at that a yahrzeit is a big day. And the fact that we need to say Kaddish on a yahrzeit means the yahrzeit is a big day. It shouldn't be taken lightly. Okay, today's the day my parents passed away. Or even more, today's the day my Rebbe passed away, which is that his elevation elevates you, your soul. So therefore, you may think it's a yahrzeit, whatever. It's not a yahrzeit, whatever. There's a great elevation that happens then, so much so that you need to say Kaddish to help that elevation. If that's so, connect to the tzaddik so you elevate with him. And because when it comes to yahrzeit, the elevation is beyond range. So we have to prepare ourselves. If the Rebbe is elevating, and we're chassidim of the Rebbe, we elevate with the Rebbe. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to make a keli. You have to prepare yourself for this elevation. And the Rebbe tells a story. Means the Rebbe is repeating a story from his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe. Shapam achas kishiyash b'chasid, Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai mi Paltava. That once Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai was from Paltava, which was a close friend and colleague of the Rebbe Rashab, was sitting in Kvektish Abner Rashab Nishmaseidin. La'achas shekvar hoyu chaverim, they were friends. Shleishim shana, 30 years. Parts of Bechi, Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai burst out crying. He said to his friend, the Rebbe Rashab, in the past 30 years, he looked at his friend, the Rebbe Rashab, you went up so many elevations, and I just kept on going down. I spiraled downwards, and you're elevating upwards. And here we're talking about a great Rav, a great Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai was a great Rav. Everyone sings a song. My father sings a song. Anyone who's been to my father's table every Friday night. And from the story that the Friedrich Rebbe said, it wasn't like a false humility that Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai was saying that, and the Rebbe said, don't, stop talking nonsense. He said, whatever, yeah, it's right what you're saying, basically. He accepted it. He accepted that the Rebbe Rashab had elevations in the past 30 years, and you went down. He agreed with what Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai was saying. Why? Because that's just a fact. So the Rebbe says, look, the Rebbe says, imagine to yourself. Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai, we're not talking about any kind of person. We're talking about a person that himself was a baldarga, a person that was on a level. Darga means a level. Baltsura. Not just the person on a level. It's true. He had a form. He shaped himself in life. Ovid, he worked on himself. And how did he work on himself? He was a person who worked on himself with bitterness. Mitzad Mar Shchayra, he was bitter about his distance from Hashem, not depressed. We talked many times, depression and Merirus are not the same thing. Because Merirus leads to Simcha. You're happy to nevertheless be able to serve Hashem, but Merirus comes from the realization where I'm at. Nevertheless, when he compared himself to his friend, the Rebbe Rashab, not only were his elevations not considered elevations in comparison to his friend, his things about Darga, about Tsura, and Oived were not considered anything of a mile, of something unique. On the contrary, the more the Rebbe Rashab elevated, the more he descended. Because why? Even though he was within his own life elevating, but he kept on getting further away from the Rebbe Rashab. Why? Because again, what did we say? That every time there's an elevation, it's a total new situation. So if he's elevating smallly in a small amount of small measurements, and the Rebbe Rashab is taking these huge leaps and bounds, so he keeps getting further and further away from it. Like we said before, B'inyan, that says in the Maimer that Keseri law, even the highest level of Keser, the crown, the Ratzin, the Tainik, the pleasure, the want, Alfagav the EU or Kadmon, even though it's an original light, means it hasn't gone through the process of Tzimtzum, or Tzach, it's a clear, or Mesuchsachas, and a light that makes clarity. But EU Ukam Kadam Ilas Ailis, it's dark compared to the cause of all causes. It's a statement that we say from the Kunei Zohar. Shagam bechinas kesri ilah, even kesri ilah. Harikadam ilas ilas, but if it compares itself to the cause of all causes, not only is he not light, is darkness. The Rebbe says, if this is what we're talking about with Rav Yaakov Mordechai, and this is what we're talking about Keser, so when it comes to us, and we're getting ready for Yud Shvat, and the Rebbe is about to have an Aliyah, and we want to take an elevation with him, we have to ask ourselves, what have we done? Because how could we compare ourselves to the Rebbe's getting ready to make an elevation on the yard side? We're dark. We're even worse than dark. If that's the case, what's the bottom line? The Rebbe is not here to describe a bad situation. The Rebbe is always about the bottom line. Therefore, we must get ready. Nit abzustehen. We have to get ready no matter what. No matter how far we are, no matter how low we are. The Rebbe is elevating, we're the Rebbe's chassid, we're getting an elevation. But we have to be, at least you have to be conscious, ready, prepared. You have to include yourself and prepare yourself. El Rebbe Bal Yosef for the Rebbe's elevation. How do we do it? Do the max you can do. What's b'chol me'edecha? Ma'od shelcha. Your max, right? Your max could be nothing compared to the next person, but you've maxed what you can do. Ma'od shelcha akapanim unzer bligvul. Find your limitless. Even though it has no comparison to the limitless of the Rebbe, but if you bring yourself to your limitless, your believable, so that makes you a keli to be ready to elevate with the Rebbe, even though you're not even within range. Upshita, the Rebbe says, and for sure, these are this is not a time to weaken one's connection, his kashrus to the Rebbe. God forbid, the Rebbe says. Not only shouldn't you stop being connected, God forbid. Not only stop, it can even weaken. What is the Rebbe referring to? Keep the things the Rebbe instituted. The Rebbe talked about the Yom Yom of the first of Shvat, is the Rebbe spoke about the idea of saying Tehillim every day after davening. That Tehillim every day after davening is one of the takanas, and when you keep when you do what the Rebbe wants, the Rebbe says what you should do. Say every day Chumash Tehillim Tanya. Say every day a little bit of Rambam. Say Tehillim every day. Do the thing, do L'um Mitzayim. When you do the things the Rebbe asks from you, the takanas, then you have the elevation with the Rebbe. Well, the heart, he's pointing out. The truth is, Gam Chalishis bin Niskashis Havi Hefsik. The Rebbe says, I just want to correct himself. that when the Rebbe seemed to say that there's a difference between stopping a connection and a weakening a connection. The Rebbe says weakening something is also really stopping something. The famous example the Rebbe gives in the Tanya in the Geras Tshuva that you have a very thick rope made up of a lot of thin strings. If you do an Vaerah, you cut a string. Even if it's not that you cut the whole string. But you did cut a small string. One small rip in a rope weakens the whole rope. So the Rebbe continues, the Rebbe says it's not just, it's like an Avera. Even one time to miss part of the takonis of the Rebbe is already a chalishus, a weakness, and a hefsek, and a separation. This is all within the mind frame of the From of Vaerah. The From of Vaerah is very harsh. The Rebbe says a Beis Chassidus. So we see that's the Fabring, and the Rebbe is going in that mode, like, being tough. So every time we make a unification, it's forever. So if we make a hefsek, if we make a separation. And the Rebbe continues with this along this line. And so I just want to finish. I'm going to just read one thing that he says. And skip down one paragraph because I have to stop. One has to strengthen their connection to the Rebbe. It's very important when it comes to the day of a yard site. When we get ready for the yard site. When we're getting ourselves ready to accompany the Rebbe, all of us, in his aliyahs and his elevations, it's not because we're worthy, it's not our own strengths. And it's through the connection to the Rebbe. Therefore, the Rebbe says the way one connects and makes sure that they assures themselves that they're going to have a part in the elevation, you have to be connected through the takanis, through the things, the ideas that the Rebbe instituted, like saying Tilim, Tanya, Mifsayim, learning Torah, etc. Laila Torah, learn Torah is in Shulchan Aruch, but the Rebbe stressed that the person should have shiurim and all that. I wanted to wish everyone a good Shabbos, a good Chodesh. And next Shabbos is Taki Yud Shvat. It's a big idea. We'll learn something on Yud Shvat, maybe if I bring Yud Shvat when it comes next week. Laila Tov and a good Shabbos. Take care.